All right, Jason Love here for the United Devils YouTube channel with a match reaction and player ratings for the West Ham match. Very, very big game with the race for Champions League. United really needed to take all 3 points in a convincing fashion, or at the very least not lose. The draw puts them in prime position in the last game to play Leicester, needing just a draw to get Champions League, or a win, of course, would do Champions League. The big disaster scenario would have been a loss to West Ham, and unluckily enough, United was able to at least avoid the loss. But overall, you have to be pretty displeased with the effort today, resulting in just a draw. This looks like a tired team that's just trying to get to the finish line, limping to the finish, and it's going to be an all-out war on Judgment Day, the last game of the Premier League season, with a really mid-afternoon kicked off against Leicester, needing at least a draw and preferably the win to at least get Champions League. Today it all went wrong, starting on the stroke of halftime, 0-0. First half, you were fine with that. Everything was going okay. Then a free kick, which United gave up way too many free kicks all day. This one really was a poor start. The kick went into the box. Paul Pogba had to throw his hands up in order to protect himself. It goes off of his hands. Ultimately, it's harsh for not a red card, but ultimately it's harsh for a penalty kick. But the reality is, he's made himself bigger, and his hand deflected the ball and stopped the scoring opportunity. It's got to be a penalty. You've been waiting all season for De Gea to come up with a big save on a penalty. Michael Antonio struck it well, and West Ham was up 1-0, and you had to have an uneasy feeling if you were a United fan going down 1-0 to a West Ham team that only needed a draw in order to guarantee safety, although they are pretty safe for the most part with their last match against Aston Villa. But they're a tough team to break down twice, and United found out the hard way. Able to equalize through Greenwood, who had a really nice finish. He's really played very, very well since the restart. Only one really poor game for him. Today he was very good, creating chances, and he created the goal himself, basically. A huge goal, a very well struck shot, which gave United at least the draw that they really needed, at the very least, to give themselves two ways out on Sunday, with the opportunity to move on to Champions League with a draw or a win against Leicester. But ultimately, again, it's the way you have to feel about this match is it's just meh, right? It's not a disaster in that they didn't lose, but you really wanted that multiple goal victory to create a three-way scenario in the Champions League. Still had dreams of third. Now it's like you just hope to at least get across the line to get into Champions League. And again, it's not the result you hope for, but it's the result you settle for. 1-1. All right. As for the player ratings, it wasn't very good. De Gea, you have to give maybe a 6. Came up with one pretty good save on a header and another pretty good save where he tipped one over the bar off a deflection. But ultimately, again, you're still waiting for that big save on the penalty kick or something. Can't come up with it. It was okay. It wasn't great. A couple decent stops, and ultimately it's 6. Brandon Williams, I'll give a 6.5. He had the ball well. He seemed to do well, but ultimately seemed to really not. The attack seemed to flow through him, and then he seemed to kind of not be able to come up with that final product. Lots of little good touches and around the ball, but ultimately not really good enough. Harry Maguire was okay. I'll give him a 6.5. He made some couple of good clearances. He was solid, steady, not great. Lindelof, again, just a meh performance, 6.5. It's kind of just out there. No huge mistakes that I can recall, but nothing spectacular either. But a 6.5 for him. Fosun Mensah was okay. I thought he didn't really hurt them. A couple of decent clearances. Seemed pretty strong on the ball. Getting more confident. Played pretty well. I'm going to give him a 6. Pogba, you have to give a 5 for. Ultimately, his mistake really cost him. I mean, is it harsh? Sure, but he's created a penalty, and he was kind of loose in possession all day. A couple of good passes, 5.5 at most for Pogba. Matic, couple of fouls, gave away some free kicks, not very good. I'd say again, just the Met performance. The entire team was basically a 6, so he's going to fit right in with a 6. Rashford will give a 6.5 too. And the problem again there with him, just not the final product. He seemed to move around with the ball, do okay, get some good opportunities, but then again, just lacking in that quality in the end that you expect at this point from Rashford. Fernandes was probably his worst Game United shirt. Nearly was sent off for a red card on possible violent conduct, and ultimately he wasn't. A yellow card. He wasn't very good. He lost possession a lot. It's really a 5 for Fernandes today. He wasn't good at all. Greenwood will give a 7. His goal was the equalizer. It's a huge goal. He made a couple of good moves. Really was dangerous. So we'll give a 7 for him. Martial, 6. Just an okay performance. Nothing great. As for the substitutes, not much from them. We got Gallo, got a little bit of a run. Wan-Bissaka got a little bit of a run. We'll say for Wan-Bissaka, he really affected the game when he came on. Not long enough. Well, you know what, he was on long in front of rating. You know what, we're gonna give him a 7. Wan-Bissaka really changed the game. At least got the game tied, which was a very big goal. Where he set up or helped set up Greenwood. So that was a very big moment. So we'll give him a 7. Gallo was just kind of meh out there. I'll give him a 5. He didn't do great in hold-up play, and ultimately, yeah, this sounds like a very meh kind of podcast here, but it's because it was just a very meh performance. But again, ultimately, in the end, they got the point that gives them at least a chance to secure Champions League with just a draw, at least against Leicester. They avoid the ultimate disaster, which would have been a loss. But you expect a lot more when you're playing at home, last game of the season at Old Trafford, with a much better team. You expect to win, and they didn't get the job done. So ultimately, it's going to come down to the final game. It's going to be an exciting final day of the season, and hopefully Man United can pull out at least the draw against Leicester to get Champions League. Thank you for listening. You can follow us at the United Devils on Twitter. Feel free to like this video or comment on the video below, or comment on our Twitter feed for any kind of response. I could be followed at JAYSONL56 Twitter, and I'd be glad to talk Man United with anyone. Thanks very much. Thanks again for listening. Glory, glory, Man United.